Google claims that the Pixel has the best smartphone camera anyone has ever made. Their main evidence, DxOMark Mobile's score of 89, making this the highest rated device they have ever tested. Let's put these claims to the test and see if the rear camera lives up to the hype. Just to get a few things out of the way, I decided to capture all these shots and footages in the maximum resolution possible, 12.3 megapixels for the rear, 8 megapixels for the front, and 4K video recording, and when full auto for HDR+, white balance, and flash when necessary. The reason I did this was to find out how Google manipulated the camera to get that score they so love and cherish, as there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of manual settings as compared to the Galaxy S7, forcing most users to just go full auto mode instead. Also, before I move on, I wanted to thank Dbrand for sponsoring this video. The one I have on my Google Pixel makes it look like it's made out of stone, giving it a unique look and a bit more grip without creating any bulk. I'll drop a link down below if you want to check out even more skins to customize your Android device. With that being said, both models of the Pixel offer a 12.3 megapixel rear shooter with an f2.0 aperture lens, face detection and laser autofocus, dual LED flash, and an electronic image stabilization feature instead of OIS. If this sounds familiar, that's because the Nexus 6P has similar specs on paper, but keep in mind that the Pixel has an upgraded Sony sensor and SME HDR technology for faster HDR+ processing. Hands down, this is one of the fastest cameras on a smartphone yet. Just double tap that power button to launch the Google Camera app and snap a photo. There's almost no shutter lag, super fast autofocus, and Google's enhanced HDR+ mode makes this one of the fastest cellular shooters I've ever seen. You can even long press it to take multiple photos in a couple of seconds, and Smart Burst will tell you which ones were the best photos and even create a GIF in the process. Not to mention that all these photos taken will be saved on Google Photos cloud storage at full resolution to save you some space. Now everyone's seen the app layout, but in case you haven't, your captured photos are on the right side of the shutter button and there's a button to switch to the front facing shooter on the left. You have your typical modes that haven't really changed since the launch of the Nexus 6P. Slow motion allows you to record your subject at up to 240 frames per second in 720p. Panorama and photosphere are still great ways to capture more of the area around you. And lens blur to put some more focus on your main subject by blurring out the background. So in my full review of the Google Pixel, I said photos taken on this device come out looking phenomenal, but my feelings have cooled down a bit since then. Don't get me wrong, I still think most of the end results come out looking solid, but there are a few things that make it fall short from the perfect camera. For one, I do experience a bit more lens flare than most other devices I've shot with, especially when there's a bright source of light around the camera. Google is aware of this hardware issue and they will try to resolve it with a software update, but it will only work if you have HDR+ enabled. Not a huge deal, as there's no reason to turn that feature off, as the image processing is still pretty fast. Other than that, images in the right amount of lighting still come out looking very sharp and detailed. HDR+ mode does help a lot to fix overexposure and washed out color issues without making the picture look unnatural. In low light, the camera does a decent job of not softening the colors and degrading the detail when compared to other devices, but it does tend to spit out grainy images from time to time and has a hard time focusing on a subject, creating motion blur if you're not steady enough. It's not just with pictures but in video as well, as the EIS just doesn't really help when dramatically turning the camera to a different subject. Still, the camera did a very good job of keeping the video stabilized when walking and panning around, but it does occasionally overcompensate for intended movement, which will sometimes lead to robotic looking pans and sudden shifts. It won't do you any good if you're running either, as the gyroscope just won't be able to keep up. Can't complain too much though, as this phone still brings some of the smoothest footages I've ever seen on a smartphone. Audio within the video is not terrible either. Although you're not getting stereo audio, it does a good job of minimizing background noise. So right now I'm in a dirt road and there's not too much going on, so not too much noise, but you can get a tone of how the microphone sounds, and it is a bit rocky, so stabilization, let's see how that turns out to be. That's basically it. The front-facing camera also provides some decent recordings and photos, but there does seem to be a bit of shaking when recording with one-handed use, as electronic stabilization was not implemented on the front. It's not a big deal and it's still better than most selfie shooters out there. Overall, the Pixel comes packed with one of the best cameras on a smartphone, but it's not going to compete with a DSLR. This is mostly for those who just want to take a quick photo and not have to operate any manual settings. If you're into photography and love those advanced tweaks, then this may not be the phone to get, unless you install a third-party app instead. I'd say the Galaxy S7 would be your best bet as of now. Still, it's capable of taking some great photos in most lighting situations, 4K video recordings will create some majestic stabilized shots, and you definitely won't be disappointed in the final results. Well, that's my full review of the Pixel cameras. Let me know in the comments what you think about Google's newest smartphone camera in the comments down below, and make sure to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Check out AndroidPolice.com for some great Android news, and I will see you guys in the next one.